Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome to my review of Bramble The Mountain King. This was, if you haven't seen this game before, it is a kind of an adventure horror game set in the world of Nordic folklore. And I found it to be a very fun and interesting game. I think it was kind of just really beautiful artistically. I mentioned it in my playthrough video that it wasn't necessarily a quote-unquote horror game by a lot of definitions that most people would use, but it definitely had a lot of horror elements and horror theming. So I don't think that it's completely off base to say that it is a horror game, but it's definitely more of a it almost kind of felt to me very similar to Little Nightmares in how it played. So it's kind of a game that's similar in that vein. If you actually want to watch my playthrough, there is a link in the description below, so you can check that out. But we're just going to go ahead and run through my 6 categories that I use to kind of review a game, and then we'll give it an overall score at the end. So let's go ahead and jump in. So kicking things off, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the audio design of the game, which I actually really liked. The overall music score of the game was fantastic. A lot of the story is kind of told through a narration. And the narrator's voice was actually very well chosen for this type of role. It was well voice acted. I thought it was the audio design overall of the game was fantastic. The only kind of criticism that I have is that none of the actual characters in the game, whether it's the main character that you're playing, his sister, or any of the other creatures that you encounter, none of them actually speak in the game. They kind of make noises that are similar to, I guess, like The Sims. If you've ever played The Sims and you know how like those characters kind of talk, they kind of just like make noises that kind of suggest at what they're trying to say. It was very similar in this game. The only speaking in the game is through the narrator's voice, which again is fantastic. And then the overall rest of the design of like the audio elements of the game, I thought that the effects were really good. They're all very well suited to the game. My only detractor is that that they didn't have any dialogue for any of the characters. I think that could have added a lot and would have been very, even if it was in a Nordic language. Maybe that's why they didn't do it, because maybe they pulled from a lot of the different Nordic folklores and they didn't want to centralize the character specifically in one language. But yeah, in any event, I guess that kind of brought down my score a little bit. I was going to give it a 9, but I decided that the lack of dialogue for the characters kind of did take away for me a little bit, and it was almost because the sounds that they did wind up making while they were quote unquote talking they kind of took you out of it a little bit. So I gave the audio design in this game an 8.7. Moving on to the visual design of the game, again, it was very well made. I thought a lot of the creature design was really cool. The different lighting and glowing effects that they used at times were very thematic. It definitely was very beautiful to look at. There was kind of this weird, like, grainy filter put on some of the scenes in the game, which it was definitely a stylistic choice. I don't think it was necessarily bad. And in certain scenes it kind of worked a little bit, but when you have that grain effect and you start going into like darker scenes, where there's one in particular that I'm thinking of, and I don't want to give anything away to really spoil it, but there's one scene in particular where you go in and out of like light and dark, and the grain filter that's on there, it definitely just kind of muted things a little bit, and I didn't really like it when it was used there. But overall, I mean, I couldn't take too much away from the visual design of the game. I thought it was fantastic, so I gave that a 9. And that brings me to the atmosphere category. The music the audio design and the visual design working together for the overall tone of the game that they were trying to go for, I thought they did a fantastic job. I don't have a whole lot to say about this. There wasn't anything that really kind of pulled me out of the game so much that I wasn't like buying the atmosphere that they were trying to build. You definitely felt like you were playing through a Nordic folklore like storybook, which was great. So I gave that a 9.5. And that brings us to the gameplay category. This one I actually kind of scored the game down a little bit, largely because when I first started to try to play the game, I tried to play it with mouse and keyboard, and it definitely feels like mouse and keyboard controls were kind of added as an afterthought in a lot of ways. And I get it. I mean, this game was probably designed with consoles in mind. My recommendation is if you're going to play this game, definitely play it with a controller, because the mouse and keyboard controls definitely felt really bad. And that kind of soured the gameplay experience a little bit for me. I also did have problems with even with the controller, where there are certain parts of the game where you have to aim towards a general area where there's a circle, and under normal circumstances where you have very precise control over what your character is doing, that's not a problem. It would have been super easy if mouse and keyboard actually worked really well. But I found that using the joysticks to try to aim, there were parts of it where it just got like, it was suddenly too sensitive and it just kind of overshot the mark, which kind of made it very difficult to precisely, or at least in a general area, place where my reticle was supposed to be. So I found that to be a little annoying at times, especially there are certain boss fight scenes where the timing is a little tight on how quickly you have to shoot at something, and overshooting the mark or missing definitely kind of takes away from that experience a little bit. So I gave the overall gameplay of the game a 7.5, and that's only because really the control scheme. Everything else about the game was I thought really good. Like the way that the camera kind of followed you while you were moving through the environment was really good. I kind of wish that there was a little bit more exploration involved. I do kind of not like when games overdo that, where they just put dead ends everywhere, and because you're looking for like hidden secrets or achievements or whatever, you are wasting a lot of time going into dead end areas. So on the one hand, I do appreciate that this game really didn't do that too much. But on the other hand, I did find myself kind of wanting, like, I would like to explore this area a bit more and see some cool stuff, and that just wasn't really a part of it. It was very much an on-rails experience, which is okay. That's really good for telling a story, right? Because you can kind of guide where everybody needs to go. So that part of the gameplay was not really all that bad. I did really like that, because you're moving through the environment, the camera kind of pans along with you, and that was really good. I thought that the boss encounters were all really well designed, and it was a lot of fun because you have to deal with a lot of mechanics with like foreground, background, trying to stay out of a light source. It was just the mechanics of everything that was going on in this game was very well designed. I liked it a lot. So unfortunately, I did give it a 7.5, and that's because the control schemes were so bad. So again, if you're planning on playing this game on the PC, I would definitely recommend that you stick to the controller for the playthrough. That takes us to the story category of the game. The story was actually really good. I definitely liked the overall premise of the game, where you are trying to find your sister. She's been kidnapped by a creature and taken somewhere, and you're trying to find her. Now, some of the story elements I was a little confused about, because you are put in a position to have to kind of fight some of these bosses, right? But then part of the story was that you're supposed to be made to feel bad about doing that, and I didn't really quite understand it, and it might have just escaped my notice or attention or my understanding. But for me, that kind of ruined part of the story elements of the game, where it's like, you are telling us that we should have remorse for this, but the way that you have positioned this character that we are forced to take down is that they're not a good creature, and that taking them out is kind of a good thing for the world, which again, maybe I missed certain story elements of the game that would have suggested otherwise, but yeah, for me that was kind of a detractor. But overall, it was a really good story. It was well paced, I thought, for what they were trying to tell. So I gave that an 8.5. And last but not least, we have the length category, and I had mentioned this in my last review, where I know that this is a very important category for a lot of people. How much entertainment you're getting from a game versus how much it costs is a huge factor when people are buying a game. So I get it, that's very important. And I know that not all lengths, I also see the argument that not all lengths are equal. Like, you can have a game that's 4 hours and amazing, or you can have a game that's 4 hours and garbage, and that really changes the value equation, right? So this game on Steam right now, without any kind of discount, is $29.99. I do think that so the game, let me just put it in perspective. My playthrough of the game, which I didn't miss a lot in the game in terms of hidden objects, there were some hidden like idols or whatever that you could still find. I think I missed like 4 of them, but those aren't super important to the story, so I didn't really miss anything. So about around 4.5 hours is probably a standard estimate of how long it'll take to play through this game. So for $29.99, we'll just say $30. For $30 for 4.5 hours of entertainment, you could argue that that's not too bad. But I know that there are going to be people out there that say otherwise. So I just wanted to go ahead and give you guys the details on how long it took and what the general cost is right now, and let you make your own decision on terms of value. For me, I thought the length of the game was actually pretty good. I kind of wanted it to go a little bit longer, just because I do feel like, I mentioned in the previous category during the story that it was well paced, and I do believe that. But I also kind of think that there were moments in the game that I wish had like maybe lasted longer, that they had maybe explored an idea a little bit more and kind of fleshed it out, because it was just very interesting to me. So I kind of wanted, more of that. So for me, that kind of took some points off from the length, and I'm just doing my own time to cost benefit analysis for me personally. So I gave this category a 7.8, but this is probably the category that I think most people can take with a grain of salt, because it is more than likely the most subjective. So that is my rating for the length. Wrapping it up, I went ahead and tallied up all the scores and just averaged them out, and my overall score for Bramble the Mountain King is an 8.5. That is very good. I'm still trying to work out whether or not, like, am I going to be one of those people / reviewers that doesn't ever give a 10 for things, because nothing is perfect. So how can you possibly give something a 10? I'm still trying to figure that out in my own internal struggle for scores. So you can probably take a lot of these scores as, a work in progress. But for me, I gave it an 8.5, but I definitely would highly recommend people playing through this game if they want just kind of a fun experience that it goes into the folklore of different cultures. And again, the audio of the game was fantastic. I thought the soundtrack was amazing. The visuals of the game, the bosses, all of the characters were well designed. And I think that the way that they were used in the game scenes was a good portrayal of visual design. So I would say, again, if you are looking for something that is horror adjacent, that is not going to be something that gives you a bunch of jump scares and stuff like that, but is just trying to tell a good story and make it kind of just a beautiful experience, then definitely pick up this game. But that all said, I'm going to go ahead and end the review here. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching. Again, if you ever want to let me know what you guys think of my reviews, if you could just be nice about it, that would be great. Leave comments, in the section below. I would love to hear from people how they feel about this, what they think of it. Or if you played through the game and you just want to talk about the game itself, like, that would be cool too. This is a kind of a perfect space for discussions on that. But if you don't mind subscribing to the channel, I know, thank you to everybody who has subscribed. Definitely seen a lot more support than I really ever thought I would get. But if you have not yet subscribed and you don't mind doing so, please do. It would be very helpful to me, helps me grow the channel and make this maybe something that can be a reality that I do into the distant future. So thank you very much, and I will catch you in the next video. See you later.